Okay, this is lesson 2 for Miss Dickerson and Mr. Olive, and let's get through it. Once again, invertebrates. Just to recap on what we did in lesson 1, what we covered. Invertebrates are critters that do not have bones, no internal skeleton. They're multicellular, made of lots of eukaryotic cells, and they're heterotrophs. They eat stuff. Again, kind of a review. There's primitive and advanced traits, characteristics. Radial symmetry, invertebrates with radial symmetry would be more on the primitive side. Bilateral symmetry would be more on the advanced side. Having an open circulatory system would be more on the primitive side. Having a closed circulatory system would be more on the advanced side. And sexual reproduction, having two distinct genders would be considered to be more advanced. Once again, the big question that we're just kind of tackling all the time is what traits do invertebrates have that are considered to be primitive from an evolutionary perspective, and what traits would be considered to be advanced? Obviously, the closer they get to human-like, they're going to be considered to be more advanced. Okay, so we're going to tackle things that we didn't tackle last time, and we're going to start with the notion of having a head with a brain in it. So this concept is called cephalization. Don't ever take for granted the fact that you're cephalized. Not all invertebrates are cephalized, so that's considered a more advanced characteristic. If you look just within the phylum Mollusca, you'll see both cephalized and non-cephalized animals. So if you look at class bivalva, that's going to be the things that with shells, clams, oysters, all the shelled critters. Those don't have a head. And then you get into the gastropods. That's going to be class gastropoda. That's going to be slugs and snails. And you can see the emergence of a head. And then you get to what's actually called the cephalopod mollusks. That's going to be your squid, your octopus, cuttlefish, and nautiluses. They obviously have a head. So yeah, within phylum Mollusca, there's diversity. There's some examples here of phylum that do not have a head. They're non-cephalized. Cnidarians, coral polyps and anemones, things like that. Echinoderms, like a sea star, and the sponges, porifera, those guys are non-cephalized. So instead of having a head, a lot of invertebrates just have a nerve ring, a ring that goes around the body and gives them impulses, like, for example, flee the dark or go towards the light or whatever the impulse might be. There's movement. I'm going to propel my body towards it. So the nerve ring might be able to stimulate action responses. So. Okay, next we're going to consider how these animals protect themselves and hold themselves up, give themselves structure. So there's a variety of different ways in the invertebrate classification that do these things. So for example, the Cnidarians mostly live in water, and they use that water to shore their body up, hold their body up, give them structure. That's one means. Arthropods have a suit of armor, exoskeleton that's made out of a really tough protein called chitin. You have to be careful if you're a human, if you're eating insects, you want to typically cook them because chitin sometimes can cause an allergic reaction. And then with the echinoderms, they've got a skin, a soft tissuey skin that's actually stretched over spiny plates. So they have something called an endoskeleton, which is different than an exoskeleton. So they might feel hard, but actually just there's a soft tissue right in there. So. And then mollusks are really diverse. Mollusks have one thing in common. Every mollusk has a mantle. It just reveals itself in different ways. So with the bivalves, the mantle secretes calcium carbonate shell, and same with snails, gastropod snails. But then as you get more up and more advanced to the cephalopods, less and less shell. So the mantle often towards the end, like with octopi, it just provides a fleshy covering for the organs. So yeah, there's a lot of diversity with mollusks. Okay, so what would you consider to be more advanced? Just thinking about it, having an exoskeleton like the arthropods, endoskeleton like the echinoderms, a jelly body like the cnidarians, or a shell-secreting mantle like the mollusks. One of the things arthropods, there's a shot of a looks like a millipede or a centipede molting. So they literally back right out of their exoskeleton, and they've got a very vulnerable after they do this. They're very soft bodied, but after a few moltings, they grow, and that's how they grow. So it'd be like you outgrowing a suit of armor and being able to back out of it, and then a new bigger one emerges after a while and gets hard and protects you again. The patterns of development within invertebrates also is very diverse. So there's a couple that we'll go over right now. In the case of sea invertebrates, like anemones and mussels and oysters and things like that, they often live their initial stages of life as meroplankton, just kind of floating around in the ocean. Meroplankton means doesn't look this way forever. It's eventually going to look different. So if you were to look at a baby lobster, a baby crab, baby squid, when it right after it's emerged from an egg, it looks nothing like its adult self. And same things goes with the less mobile invertebrates like sea anemones or coral. Some invertebrates go through something called an incomplete metamorphosis. So they're born looking very similar to their adult self, but they still have a stage to go through called a nymph stage. And then eventually, after some molts, they become an adult. And others go through what's called a complete metamorphosis. So there's two different stages between egg and adult. And that's the difference between a complete and an incomplete metamorphosis. And then there's anomalies like the silverfish here, and they're just born looking exactly like their adult self. They don't go through any stages. Okay, we're going to give you a few questions for you to tackle and see if you can answer. And again, like last time, you have this mild, medium, or hot choice, depending on how much you want to challenge yourself. It's up to you. With me, just share it on a Google Doc, and Miss Dickerson has her style, so turn it in the way she likes it. Here's question number 1. What is your name, and what period do you have bio 2? Okay, question number 2 has the mild, medium, and hot choice. Question number 2, what is the term biologists use for has a head? That's for the mild choice. The medium choice, what are 2 phyla of invertebrate that have very few cephalized species? You'll hardly find anything that's cephalized in that phylum. And then your hot choice, your hardest of the 3, pick a diverse phylum of invertebrates and provide examples within that phylum that are cephalized and some examples that are not. So just write cephalized, non-cephalized, and give me some examples of critters that you can think of within one phylum. All right, and you guys can always pause these for a little bit as you go through. Okay, question number 3, your mild choice, which phylum of invertebrate is known to have an exoskeleton? Your medium choice, echinoderms have an endoskeleton. What does that even mean? And your hot choice, what provides structure for these phylum? See, what gives arthropods their structure and defense and holds their body up? Echinoderms and mollusks. So those are your 3 choices for question number 3. Question number 4, mostly these pertain to the sequence of events that you see there on the right. That's just one crab. There's only one crab in all 4 of those pictures. All right, your mild choice, what is happening in this sequence of pictures? What is going on? Your medium choice, why will this crab be very vulnerable to predators for a little while after this event? And your hot choice, why does the Oregon Department of Fish and Game use this event to determine when it's going to open a crabbing season? So you have to think about that. Oregon Department of Fish and Game knows when this is going to take place in the crab population, the Dungeness crab population off the Oregon coast. This determines when they're going to open the season. So why would they be so hung up on when an animal is doing this? Those are your three choices, excuse me, for question 4. Question number 5. There's just really one question, and do your best on it. You can do a mild version, a medium version, or a hot version of answering this question. These pictures show 2 different types of development. What's the key difference? What's the difference? All right, I'm going to go back over the questions. I got interrupted the first time that I did a presentation. I'll see how far I can get this time. Let's go back to question number 1. Question number 1, what is your name? What period do you have bio 2? Question number 2, what is the term biologists use that means has a head? Sporting a cabeza. Also, what are 2 phylum invertebrates that have very few cephalized species? You could also choose that. And your hot question, pick a diverse phylum of invertebrates and provide examples within that phylum that are cephalized and some examples that are not. So just pick one phylum and say, okay, here's some examples that are and there's some examples that are not. All right, question number 3, which phylum of invertebrates is known to have an exoskeleton? And your medium choice, echinoderms have an endoskeleton. What is that? What is an endoskeleton? What's that even mean? And your hot choice, what provides structure for these 3 phylum? So what provides structure for arthropods? What about echinoderms? What about mollusks? All right, question number 4. What's happening in this sequence of pictures? Your medium choice, why will this crab be very vulnerable to predators for a little while after this event? And your hot choice, why does O, D, F, and G use this event to determine when they're going to open a crabbing season? All right, next question. These pictures show 2 different types of development. What's the difference? Just use my last remaining seconds to say I hope you guys are having a great April and staying healthy. You know, kind of being smart about how you live your life right now so that we can make this thing go away. But also, I hope you're just enriching your lives. You get a chance to do some of those things in your life that you've always told yourself, man, if only I had more time, I would beep. So I hope you're filling in the beep with some stuff and just kind of developing your own thing, using this time to develop things, attributes in yourself that you wouldn't otherwise get a chance to, because we never get to put our lives on pause, it seems like. So anyway, I hope you enjoy these lessons and get something out of them. And if you have any questions, you can always email myself or Miss Dickerson. So thank you.